this is my review of Mob Psycho 100. Okay, so this episode is confusing because there's a lot of moving parts. So after having taken down several of the scars, the group decides to split up. Dimple heads one way, Teru heads the other way, and Mob heads a third way. That's right. So the three split up, and at this point the different points diverge. So I'm gonna go over Dimple's part first. So Dimple is also trying to find out where they're keeping the kids, but instead winds up at the Awakening Chamber, which is essentially a torture chamber designed to help people with mild psychic powers develop psychic abilities. And while he's initially confused for one of the guards because he's kind of possessing one of the guards, the group that was tasked with guarding the room actually quickly picks up on it, and then he takes them out anyway and gets information out of them about what the room is. And he points out that the design behind the Awakening Chambers aren't exactly all that off. He points out that pain is a way to bring out psychic powers, but we've seen that they don't need to be physical. There doesn't need to be physical pain to bring out psychic powers. At which point he's confronted by Matsuo, an Esper with the ability to control evil spirits. And while Dimple is facing off against the evil spirits, he quickly realizes that Matsuo is using the evil spirits to protect himself because he himself isn't all that powerful as an Esper without his spirits. At which point he decides to do a tactical diversion by charging straight in at Matsuo before shedding the body, going through the door, and then going around in a complete 180 around the room to the back of the room, repossessing the body and going to attack Matsuo. But Matsuo is prepared for this, pulls out more evil spirits to battle against Dimple, and eventually captures him and puts him in a special jar designed to make evil spirits stronger by basically having them participate in a battle royale where they try to kill each other and consume each other to become the most powerful. So Dimple gets captured there. Then there's Ritsu and the group are still trying to escape, and first are trying to find the younger Shiratori brother, and they eventually do, and are mostly able to sneak him out of the room where the guards are watching him, with only one real hiccup when they get to the door. But one of the older guard members decides to let him go, pointing out that they would never be able to take them in a fight, and in actuality he points out to the rest of them that he's just buying his time until Scar eventually takes over the world. Meanwhile, so they continue on their escape operation and are eventually taken out and are eventually able to take out them all. But then we're introduced to Sho, and Sho isn't really revealed to be much of a character at this moment. Little is known about him at this time, but he immediately tries to befriend the other kids, and when they kind of refuse, that's when he starts causing problems for them. So the rest of the Awakening Lab kids escape while Ritsu takes them down, and Sho decides to use Ritsu as bait to get Mob, and we see later that actually did indeed work, because eventually Mob does find Ritsu's collapsed body. Meanwhile Teru has to deal with a pyromaniac named Miragawa, who is very confident in his abilities and knows full well that Teru can't defend forever, because the way his powers work is that he generates a lot of heat. So even if you're defending against his actual psychic powers, you'll eventually just be boiled alive anyway inside your psychic barrier. And he lets Teru know this in no uncertain terms. So Teru decides to do something smart and completely reverses his shields to go around Miragawa, thereby roasting him alive instead. And Miragawa eventually lets his psychic powers release and then Teru lets him out of the bubble, and he collapses. But is then taken down by, what is his name? He's eventually taken down by Meraki, who has the ability to not only duplicate himself but also travel through walls. and quickly and swiftly takes him out since he was being distracted by Sakurai, who, if you guys don't know at this point, wields a sword that is apparently has psychic powers. I don't know. It's not explained till later. But yeah, but yeah, Teru in this moment gets captured as well, which leaves Mob. Mob is eventually confronted by the puppets of a little girl named Murukai, who has the ability to control puppets remotely, but is completely distressed when she finds out that her puppets were broken by him. At which point he's confronted by her big sister role model-ish called Shuchiya, who has the ability to augment her muscles to the point where she's able to put up a fair fight even against psychokinetic powers. So while she's full brawn, eventually Mob is unable to actually face off against her, pointing out that he doesn't really want to hit a girl. And she quickly understands that, and her expression softens after realizing that, but also points out that it's kind of an insult because she's not holding back, and he doesn't feel like he should either. So she tells him to let go with all these guys, and we don't actually see the rest of the fight, but it becomes quickly apparent that that's exactly how things go down. So Mob unleashes the psychic powers, and it doesn't go well for Sushi. And then Mob continues on his way until he finally finds Ritsu's unconscious body lying in the hallway after his fight with Sho, which, as I said, didn't go well for Ritsu. At which point Muto, the guy from earlier who has the ability to manipulate people's fears and stuff like that with his psychic powers, finally confronts Mob and tries to make him feel his worst fears. But Mob, who's already on the verge of going off after seeing Ritsu's lifeless body, lets all of his emotions out and sends Muto's psychic powers directly back into him, rendering Muto unconscious. And then Mob himself also falls unconscious due to the emotional strain. At which point Sho captures both of them and brings them back to the main room. So now Mob and Ritsu have been captured, which only leaves the Awakening Lab kids, who have actually made it to the front door. But they can't even get out the front door because they quickly realize that the door is heavily guarded. But then they realize something's off, and that apparently somebody important shows up. And then they feel a powerful psychic aura and believe it to be the boss. But in actuality, it's just Reagan. It's not actually Reagan. So Reagan came looking for Mob, and everybody mistook him for the boss because of his confidence. It's explained that that's exactly what happened in a later episode, but it's supposed to be a cliffhanger, but it's not actually a cliffhanger because we know up to this point that Reagan isn't that powerful a psychic, and the fact that he's able to generate a psychic aura at all is complete bullcrap. So that's kind of the joke. Everybody assumes that he's the leader simply because he walks in with such confidence. But in actuality, he's not even that powerful as psychic. He's just a con man who does good things to help people. So he's just a good person. But people just assume that he's the boss because he's stressed so sharply and he's so confident a person. But yeah, he's not actually the leader of Claw. It's revealed later who is actually the leader of Claw toward the end of the arc, and then we finally see him in the second season. But for the most part, it's not Reagan. I'm just going to say that right now. It's not Reagan. But yeah, everybody's just convinced it's Reagan because of how confident he is and how he pretty much walks in with authority. And it's also because of a misunderstanding, but we'll cover that in the next episode. But yeah, everybody's been captured, but except for the Awakening Lab kids. And then Reagan walks in and is confused for the leader of Claw, which does come play back into the story later. But yeah, it's an interesting. Yeah, so Reagan is probably going to just walk in, get Mob out, and for the most part, that's going to be it. There's going to be one last psychic battle before the season wraps, but yeah, for the most part, Reagan, because he's confused for the leader, just kind of watches in, walks in and get Mob and get out. That's pretty much his plan. That's pretty much his plan. He's looking for Mob. He realized where he was, so he's planning to just watch in, watch back out. That's really it. But yeah. This episode was just to kind of confuse people into thinking that maybe Reagan is actually a powerful psychic, but we know for a fact that he's not. It's been said several times at this point that he's not, so it's not really much of a plot twist because we already know the answer. So yeah, this episode was meant to set up a plot twist that we already know isn't actually a plot twist. So yeah, it's a good episode. It's a fun episode, and it's clear that now things are going to get serious now that Reagan just waltzes in. But anyway, yeah, if you guys have seen this episode of Mob Psycho 100, what did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month, and it really helps me out, so I would definitely appreciate it if you did that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!